Any ideas what this is? Keep watching to find out. Welcome to Lot 76 Cars. My name's Simon. Today we're at the fabulous Wokingham Lions Classic Car Show that takes place only every couple of years. So let's go and have a look at some of the fabulous cars behind us and maybe have a chat with a few of the owners as well. So this is a rare treat to start with. It is the only remaining Carlton 2 Litre S GL Auto on the road. So it spent a number of years in the previous owner's garage after he sadly passed away. I think about 30 years. There we got proof that from how many left, if you want to believe that one. The S is supposed to be a sport version with a bit more power, but the owner says it's a bit difficult to say after 41 years. Look at that dashboard. It's even got the original radio there with a cassette player. I've still got cassettes. I need to find a car with a cassette player to play them. Look at that fabric trim. Looks an absolute treat, doesn't it? Oh, I do like these. And there aren't many left. I haven't seen many of these. In fact, I think I've only seen this very car 2 years ago at the last show. What a treat to start with. Well, what do we have here? We've got a Marina TC twin carb, released a bit more power. I suppose the closest you're going to get to a GTI in the Marina range. The Marina range was maligned, but it was a massively successful bestseller. You know, well up there in the top cars of the day sold charts. And this one's an absolute treat. I don't know what the colour is. I'm going to have to put that on the screen afterwards, but it looks lovely, doesn't it? So this is lovely, isn't it? It's a W124 Mercedes. I think that might be blue black metallic. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. It's left-hand drive, but what makes this special is it is a 500e. So it's a V8, 5 litre V8. Now this was developed by Porsche for Mercedes because they didn't have capacity at the time. They were developing the W140 S-Class. So they actually outsourced a lot of the work on this to Porsche, believe it or not. Now, external differences, yeah, it's left-hand drive, we can see, but also those blistered arches at the front and also at the back. It's really subtle on this car, isn't it? And of course, on the back, we've got that all-important 500e badge. You really do not see these at all. They are hen's teeth rare. So although it looks like a Mark II Jag, which pretty much it is, it's built under the BMC days, so in actual fact it's a 340. The range was a 340 and a 240. Now by this stage, Jaguar themselves were struggling a little bit, and in actual fact they did try and take out some costs. So you notice the bumpers are far narrower than the earlier Mark II cars, and the owner told me the leather in this one, in actual fact it came out of the factory with vinyl to start with. So a Mark II Escort in rally trim, well aren't they all? And it's got the earlier badging on the front grille. You see that was replaced by the Ford Oval at some stage a few years later than this, but it's a treat to see that. Looks lovely. Who doesn't like a Mark II Escort? So sold in some markets is the Levin and the Truno. This is a Toyota AE86. It's a rear-wheel drive car, so a lot of these were used for circuit racing and rallying and didn't survive. Sold in not particularly huge numbers, certainly here in the UK, although this looks like a UK car. It looks in absolutely brilliant order, doesn't it? And has survived extremely well. Particularly black paint's going to show up any imperfections, isn't it? And this one looks pretty good to me. So we've got a Capri 2 Litre S from, what would that make it, 1984. That looks a treat, doesn't it? Now this one says it's a 5-speeder inside, so whether it's had a Sierra gearbox put in there, I think originally only came with a 4-speed. It's got that laser trim there, a copy of the shoot annual in the passenger seat, just in case you wanted to check up on the football results back in the day. And that's a beautiful car. It really stands out in white, doesn't it? So this looks a bit familiar, but in actual fact it's probably a relatively rare car. It's a Reliant Sabre 6. So these were produced as a result of a cooperation between an Israeli company called Autocars and Reliant, and named Sabra, and then re-engineered or engineered for right-hand drive and sold as the Reliant Sabre. So it's got some characteristic styling features that makes it look a bit like a Spitfire from some angles, or a Triumph GT6, but clearly isn't. It's got that interesting styling to the roof. I'm not sure what the benefit of that is, because there's no vents there, but that's a pretty rare car. A bit of a hint of Aston Martin at the back, isn't it? What do you think? So these were joint venture between Porsche and VW. It's a 914, and there was also a 914 six-cylinder car. This one looks to be heavily modified. I can't see any information sheet on the car. It's left-hand drive. I don't think these were officially sold in the UK. I could be wrong, but this one's an absolute treat. Certainly stands out in that signal orange colour, doesn't it? Also getting an out in today's mild Merc, so we'll move on from that. I'm sure you've seen it already. We've got a fabulous TVR Griffith. Next to it we've got a Chimera, and I think next to it we've got another one as well. Now the Sabira is worth a special mention, especially if you've got passenger or kids to cart around as well, because it's a four-seater. This must be about as practical as a TVR gets. You've got incredible styling. We've got the lack of door handles. We open the door handles from there with that button. There's actually a little bit of space in the back. I wouldn't call it capacious in there really, to be fair. Incredible, that milled aluminium they used. They didn't use switchgear from other manufacturers, and these look really lovely. That colour absolutely pops, doesn't it? That's a beauty. Now I think this originally was a Mini 25. The car used to celebrate the 25th birthday of the Mini way back in 1984. It's still got the 25 graphics on there, but it's had a few changes. It's got absolutely huge arches on there. It's got a black roof, and if you have a look around the front as well, it looks like they've replaced those traditional headlamps with some very effective looking LED units. What a great little car that is. I like that one. I'd like to be taking that home, I must admit. Lotus Europa, fitted originally with a Renault engine and then later I believe with Lotus's own twin cam. Celebrates those world championships that the Lotus Formula 1 team scored, weren't they successful? And this looks lovely. It's actually been the subject of quite a number of articles in Lotus books and magazines, and it really is a truly special car. Brilliant. So built in West Bromwich, styled by an Italian, absolutely lovely, isn't it? It is a Jensen Interceptor. This looks to be a later car. So the company went into all sorts of financial difficulties in the 70s with the fuel crisis. They never tire of seeing these. They've got a gargantuan thirst for fuel. You know, almost people have told me single digit fuel consumption, but who cares when it looks like that? Won't you look good when you're filling up with super? What a beautiful looking car that is. A massive glass area at the back. So Richard, I think you've probably got one of the rarest cars at the show today, and maybe one of the rarest cars full stop period. A Monteverdi 375 high speed?
375 high speed.
High speed.
Yeah.
Well, so tell us more about it. I mean, this is truly special, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is a Swiss supercar. It was made in the 70s, late 60s and early 70s,
Right.
in Basel in Switzerland. And Monteverdi is, he was the dealer for Ferrari, Jensen, Rolls-Royce,
Right.
Bentley, Lancia, a lot of them. And one year, Enzo Ferrari said to him, says, this year you need to buy 100 Ferraris from me, and you need to pay for them all up front now.
Okay.
And Peter said, I can't do that. I don't know. I've never sold 100 Ferraris. This was in the early 60s, and I don't have the money, so I can't do it. So he said, if you don't, I'll find someone who will. And he said, well, okay, find someone else. I'm out. And he said, and by the way, as a parting shot, by the way, you're making the wrong cars, because the people who can afford your cars are generally older, and they don't want racing cars that break down, and the clutches are too heavy,
dear.
and they overheat when they go over the Alps,
dear.
and you have to go to Maranello for a service. They want a car that's more luxurious and fast and comfortable and reliable, and I will build them that car.
Wow.
And he came up with this.
Wow, this is fantastic. So how did you come to get it then? Because it's not the sort of thing you find on Auto Trader when you browse in, or eBay, is it?
No, I think there's 3 in the UK at the moment.
Wow.
And I was working in Switzerland, and I came across it there. I was kind of looking around for a while, and I thought, well, if I'm ever going to buy a Monteverdi, working in Switzerland is the place to do it. So I found one there and ended up doing the deal. And it was my only car in Switzerland, so we toured the Swiss Alps in it. If I needed to go to the shops, I'm going this. Although I lived in Geneva, I didn't really need to go to the car to go to the shops. But it was if I went to do anything, I used this car. So I used it quite a lot when I was there.
Oh,
and then we drove it back to the UK with the
and the engine, it's an American engine. It's
yeah. This was another part of Monteverdi's theory. He wanted a car that he could sell anywhere. Didn't want to set up a dealership network, so it's got a Chrysler 7.2 litre engine, and
right.
if you sold these in America, he would say just take it to your local Chrysler dealer, they can service it.
Wow, fabulous. What a great story and what a fabulous car. Thank you for telling us about it.
No
really
problem.
appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you. So in full Bobby Ewing spec is this late R107 300 SL, really long production life from 71 I think right the way through to 88, 89. Absolutely lovely interior, not leather, and in my opinion far better for it, that cloth interior, beautiful in that signal red. I can't remember the official Mercedes colour, I'll stick it on the screen if I do manage to find out. Absolutely lovely, isn't it? We've got a very nice Mark II Golf GTI, and it's the 16 valve. So many of these cars were sold without even without power steering, I think was an option, which was incredible. It's got those lovely bottle top wheels, as I call them. Let's have a look round the back. It's a 1989, it says, in Tornado Red, with 90% original bodywork and 150 odd thousand miles on. Well, it's wearing its miles well. It's looking good, isn't it? Well, this is a lovely example of the ADO 16 Austin Morris 1100. Many other badges were used on it. Incredibly popular car back in the day. Best-selling car back in the mid-60s, in 65 for sure. I'm not sure what this colour is called. Put it in the comments if you know. But it's a beautiful example, isn't it? You can see why they were such popular family transport. So this is an MGT-F, which replaced the F, and the car switched over from a form of hydrogas suspension to coil springs. And in actual fact, this one's in a monogram colour, special edition colours that MG Rover offered. This is monogram Spectra, and depending on which angle you look at it from, it looks slightly different. It looks pinky, looks purpley, looks a bit grey from some angles as well. Well, I can imagine matching the colour on that one. If it needs a touch-up is a challenge, but that one looks a treat, doesn't it? This is lovely, isn't it? It's a 62 Morris Traveller 1000 called Bessie. Well, hello Bessie. The colour is apparently rose taupe. I didn't know that, but I do now. And it's got the 1098 single SU carburetor engine. This one's in lovely order, but the woodwork is actually a structural part of the car, so it's something to watch out for when you're buying one. But that looks really nice, doesn't it? Got a lot of time for those. A 1967 Riley Elf. There was a Riley Elf and a Wolseley Hornet, both based on the Mini. Badge engineered on Mini base, but substantially different, with a decent sized boot. What a cracking little car. So shout out to Berkshire and District Classic Car Club. We're here in Force today, and Ray owns this TVR 3000M, Blackpool's finest. What a lovely car. This has got the Essex engine, the 3 litre Essex engine, which I think was fitted into the Capri, and started production in the early 70s. That's a massive rear glass area, isn't it? Doesn't it look a treat? So this was Ford's first shot at an XR, and it followed the very successful Fiesta Super Sport, which was only a 1.3, with this 1.6 litre version, non-injected. There's lovely Corello lamps on the front of it. Got those graphics that everybody liked back in the day. That lovely, you'd recognise that interior anywhere, wouldn't you? That striped interior. I think it's only a 4-speeder as well. I do like Fiestas. I had a Mark II, but this is a lovely, lovely Mark I. Doesn't this look an absolute lovely looking little hatch? So we're going to have a chat with Dave, who's got this fabulous Escort Mark 1 Mexico, the one we all want. We're sat in the car now. It's an absolutely beautifully restored car. Tell us about this, because it didn't always look as nice as it does now, did it?
No, it didn't. So yeah, I've owned the car now for 36 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So and then my background is a car painter, and so I decided back in the day, in my youth, is to customise it. So I spent 7 years customising it.
Wow.
To put it to a yellow colour.
Okay.
Yeah, which from there I went round to all the shows, NEC Birmingham show, etc. And I even took it abroad to Belgium, and I came first in Belgium as the show car. And then yeah, I sort of like found my wife now, and I just left it in my dad's garage, and for many years. And then yeah, to date now, it's taken me 15 years to get it back to factory.
And it's now factory standard,
It's
is it?
factory standard now, yes.
Okay, fabulous. And do you use it a lot? You go far with it, or?
No, not really. Well, saying that, 2 weeks ago, I'm originally from sunny Blackpool.
Okay.
So I drove up to Blackpool a couple of weeks ago, doing pottering around on the motorway, just to take some photographs. Yeah, and that's as far as I've been in it, really.
Oh, fabulous. Well, thanks for telling us about it. It's an absolutely glorious car.
Oh, thank you.
Very much.
Yeah,
Cheers.
no, thank you.
This is lovely, isn't it? It's the wedge gyro styled Lotus Esprit Turbo with a Garrett T3 or something turbocharger. I mean, by today's standards, 210 brake horsepower wouldn't be a lot, but back then, it's got those the Morris Marina door handles. They've been used on so many things, haven't they? Back in the day. What a lovely car. Probably not a lot in terms of rearward vision, I suspect, but this 1980 version looks an absolute treat, doesn't it? I do like that one. So Ford originally planned to produce 1,000 of the Ford Racing Pumas, hence the registration number here. The reality is, instead of producing 1,000, they only managed to shift 500. Now, production of the car was taken out of Ford to Tickford, who put a lot of work into extending those wheel arches. You can see much wider. But the biggest issue the car came up against was not the styling. The engine power, I think, was about 150, 160 horsepower. Put that on screen if I'm wrong. But simply competition at the price level was so strong. You can have a Clio Williams for less money, in fact, and that one proved to be far more desirable at the time. Thus, they are pretty rare cars today, with those 500 only ever being sold. Lovely. So this looks a treat, doesn't it? It's a Lotus Elan Sprint from 1972 with 126 horsepower in something that light. It goes, well, apparently 0 to 60 6.5 seconds, it says, and a top speed of 125. So called, this particular one is nicknamed Lucy, and doesn't Lucy look an absolute treat from the front, from the back, from the side? It looks absolutely glorious, doesn't it? I do like that. They are tiny little sports cars, but lovely. So earlier incarnations of the small Triumph Saloon were front wheel drive for a while, which they tried, and then they reverted with the Dolomite to rear wheel drive. So this is an 1800 HL. Rather, it's got the alloys on it, but rather than the Sprint, it's just got the C-pillar is in vinyl rather than the whole roof on the Sprint. I'm desperately trying to think what the colour is. I'll have to put it on the screen. I'm going to say Oxford Blue. That's probably incorrect, but that looks a treat, doesn't it? So it's a Herald-based Triumph Vitesse, separate body on frame due to constraints back in the day in terms of producing bodies for Triumph. Lovely car. I don't tire of seeing these. Only ever built, I think, in the UK as a two-door. I think they did engineer one of these for India. It was sold in India under the Standard brand, I believe. That looks lovely, doesn't it? Mark IV Cortinas are pretty thin on the ground compared with the Mark V, something to do with the rust proofing apparently, or lack of. This is a gear version of the Mark IV. It has confusingly got the black panel between the rear lights, which I only think came on the S, but we'll let it off, and it's great to see it here. You don't see the Mark IVs that often. So actually based on a minor platform is this Riley 1.5, a far more upmarket version of of what you would consider to be a Morris Minor based car. I think it's got rack and pinion steering and quite a few innovations back in the day, and they actually drove quite well apparently. Certainly distinctive, aren't they? There was a Riley version and a Wolseley version as well. I think packing around 105 brake horsepower 2-litre Pinto engine, I believe, is this RS2000 Mark II Escort. There were two grades of this. There was custom and non-custom, and this looks to me like it might be a non-custom car, which in actual fact is rarer. It's got a period pop-up sunroof, but the difference, the custom cars I believe had the fishnet Recaros, tinted glass, remote passenger mirror. There wasn't a huge amount of differences, but does look a treat, doesn't it? So we've got a lovely Rover P4 110 with its suicide opening rear doors. These were heavily influenced by I believe Studebakers of the time. Particularly from the back, if you look at the so one of the Studebakers, it does look like that. Interesting rear window arrangement with that strip in there, isn't it? I don't recall seeing that before, but maybe I just missed it. Beautiful car in that blue with those matching wheels. What a treat, isn't it? So no, it's not a Mark II Jaguar, it's a 2.4 litre Mark I Jaguar. The most distinctive difference is the grille is different, I recognise that, but also the spats that cover the rear wheel on the Mark Is. Now this particular version was exported to Australia. I'm not sure about the history, I don't think they're completely sure. They know how it left the factory. That looks a treat, doesn't it? In some ways, with those rear spats, it's somewhat more elegant than the Mark II. Can I say that? Well, it looks good anyway. So prevented by law from producing aircraft, Messerschmitt needed to turn themselves to another form of production, and they produced these so-called cabin scooters. Now this is a KR200, which is the largest CC version, and I think these were a two-stroke engine from memory. It's got that fabulous glass top, which does remind you of an aircraft, and yes, if you have a look in the top there, it is a two-seater. Well, you certainly probably need flying goggles to drive it. You certainly feel like it. I absolutely adore these. They are beautiful cars. I'd love to either be a driver or a passenger of one of these. What a treat. So just a few days ago was the anniversary of the date of the end of production for the E-Type Jaguar back in 1974. This is a 2+2, it's a Series 1 car, so it's a bit more usable than the fixed head coupe. I think the fixed head coupe might be a touch prettier, but this is the one that you need for usability. Looks lovely in this British Racing green colour, doesn't it? What a treat. So a beautiful 1958 XK150 called Amelia, it says. And doesn't Amelia look nice today, despite the very mixed weather here at the Wokingham show? It looks a beauty, and I'm glad that owners have brought their cars out in this mixed conditions. Reliant Scimitar SS1, that's with the Ford CVH engine in. Built by Reliant, famous for building the GTEs and the three-wheeled Robins. This was their attempt at sports cars back in the day. Three engines, I think 13 or 1400 CVH, 1600, and even one from a Nissan Silvia turbocharged. You want unicorns on this channel? Well, we've got you the biggest flipping unicorn you're going to see. This is one of 30 BMC trucks, so it's based on a coach chassis, I think an Austin coach chassis, with a body built by a coach builder, and 30 of them were used to take around the world as mobile training centres for technicians who were going to fix the new Mini. So the Mini, when it was introduced, had front wheel drive for the first time. So basically they wanted to be able to go around and train all of these technicians without actually bringing them to a central place, and they did it with this mobile training workshop. Isn't it absolutely fantastic? So we're going to try and have a chat with the owner in a second. It's got some fabulous touches, hasn't it? So I'm here with Paddy in this fabulous BMC truck. There's a Mini behind me. We're in a truck. Paddy, what's the story with this?
Right, well, this is one of about 30 mobile training units that were built for BMC when they launched the Mini.
Right.
To train engineers in dealing with the transverse engine with the transmission in the bottom. The dealers didn't want to send all their engineers all over to Cowley.
Right.
So they built 30 of these and went round all the dealers.
And this was sent around the world, was it?
It was sent around the world.
Wow.
I mean, they were called mobile training units.
Right.
That's what they were, effectively an engineering workshop.
Right.
This one actually was one of 2 that went to Canada in 1966.
Wow.
They have gone all over the world. There are 2 right-hand drive ones, one in Australia, one in New Zealand. There's one here. There was one that was converted to a transporter,
Right.
which had a different back end on it,
Right.
because it's quite low.
Right, I see, yeah,
Quite
it's quite
low.
low at the back. We'll
So-
get some shots, I'll cut in some shots of that later, yeah.
Yeah, so this one is painted in the livery of one that was done in period when Leyland took over BMC. Identical to this, same colour, same livery, same text, everything on it. So it's a replica of that one. That was more of a tuning shop. This has obviously been converted to a transporter, but it looks the same externally as that. Okay. So it's an FFK 140 coach chassis, yes. And the body was built by Marshalls in Norwich or somewhere like that.
Okay, Marshall's over in East Anglia, yeah.
They built the body, they built all the bodies. This is a Mark II, there was a Mark I which had a slightly different front end.
Right.
Single headlights instead of twin headlights. So there you have it, that's
Excellent.
what this is.
Okay. So looking pretty sharp on its 13-inch pepper pot alloys is this Capri 2.8 injection. It's an early car. I mean, A83, I think the first ones I ever saw maybe were Y. I'm not sure. Maybe the ones before that. It's got those great Pioneer speakers in the back. Remember those? Down at Halfords. I guess this would be a 4-speeder, probably being a relatively early car. Looks pretty sharp, doesn't it? Ian, you've got a 924S, but it's a bit special. It's not just a normal 924S, it's a late one. But what's special about it?
It's the S Le Mans. Basically, it's the end of the 924S, which was first built, I believe it was in 76. It was the last run, and they made 75 units. 37 of those were white and the rest were black, and it'd been right-hand drive for this market.
And it's got some unique changes. It's not just a sticker exercise, is it? It's got a lot of unique changes, hasn't it?
It's got upgraded suspension, and it's got the 924, the 2.5 litre engine.
Okay.
The 944, sorry.
944. And what sort of power is this putting out?
Oh, now you've got me. Might have to edit that bit. And
No
put it
problem. I'll put that on screen. What's the attraction about a 924, the baby Porsche? Way before the Boxster, this was out. It was the entry level to the range, wasn't it? Originally with the 2 litre.
Yes,
What's the attraction?
The attraction to me was I've always wanted something classic. I've owned Porsches, but they've not been that old, and I wanted something that I can tinker with. Really, the front engine and the transaxle gearbox appealed to me with regards to my own service and maintenance.
Excellent. Oh, thank you for telling us about it. Much appreciated.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Cheers. So thanks again for joining me on Lot 76 Cars at the Wokingham Lions Classic Car Show. I hope you've enjoyed the cars we've seen and the chats we've had with a few owners. So please like, share, subscribe. Please click on notifications so to be informed about my next video. And once again, as always, thanks for watching.